Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rookies podcast. My name is Jake Tougas.
My name is Geetika Bedi.
And on today's episode, we are joined by Lindsay Eastwood from the Toronto Six Hockey Club and the NWHL to discuss mental health and the effects that COVID-19 has had on an athlete's overall performance and mental well-being. And although mental health was touched on in our last episode, we believe that it is such an important topic that it deserves its own segment.
We are very excited to have Lindsay on with us today to hopefully gain some more insight into professional athletes' life during COVID. So welcome, Lindsay, to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. We'd like to start off by asking you to give our listeners a little bit more information on your background, who you are, what you do, and maybe how you got involved with the Six.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. I'm pumped to be here. So like you said, I'm Lindsay Eastwood. I play for the Toronto Six. I'm number 44. I'm a defenseman. Last year was my rookie season. So first year professional, and before that I was at Syracuse University playing hockey and going to school there. I actually did the 5-year program there because I was injured, had to sit out my first year. So got my undergrad in communications, then did my master's in television, radio, film production. So this is right in my wheelhouse, stuff like this. So I'm super excited to be here. But now my I call it my day job. I'm a producer for a digital marketing agency called Critical Mass, and my night job is playing hockey. So it's I couldn't ask for a better setup.
That's awesome. And thank you again for that background information. And thank you again for being here with us today. So let's dive right into our topic. So Lindsay, during quarantine, were you by yourself or were you able to be around friends or family? And how did that affect your overall mental health?
Yeah, so I got my school year got cut short last year in 2020. So I came home at the tail end of that in March or in April there, and finished out my school studies and trained. And I was trying to figure out, exactly what my next steps were in the middle of that pandemic. I knew that I wanted to play hockey, but I didn't know how that was going to look. And I was with my family, and then the opportunity with the Six came up, and I moved out to. I'm actually from Ottawa originally. So I was in Ottawa with my family, and then I shipped out to Toronto in the fall for hockey, to play with the Six and work and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I was actually finishing up my first year when we first got into the pandemic, so I can relate to that whole transition onto online school and just the whole everything of it. Also, I was also with my family during quarantine, so it definitely helped out a bit. So how have you been coping with the lockdowns, and what are some things that you did to take your mind off of the whole current situation?
Yeah, well, as an athlete, training and working out is super important, right? And so I'm usually belong to a gym, and I have a hockey program and I love it. And it's also like a social thing for me as well as a training thing. So when I couldn't do that last summer, it was pretty hard. So I had to stay disciplined in my workout regime and figure it out. Lucky enough, my trainer, he set a program for all of us at home. So it made it a little easier on us, but I don't have all the equipment. So definitely had to get creative with some things. And even just like no one's forcing me to do it. So I just have to make sure I do it myself. Right. And it was the same thing all throughout the year. So for me as an athlete, that was probably one of the biggest struggles. And also just the uncertainty of it all. Last year was such a weird year. I didn't know, if we were going to have a season, and then, then there's kind of rumblings that we were going to have a season. We're like, how is this going to look? And then we went into a bubble, and it's just, that's that's very not normal. And it's, just in the moment, I didn't know what to expect. And that uncertainty is really hard for an athlete. I know a lot of people, guys and girls, going to next year, we still don't really know what everything's going to look like. It's the uncertainty definitely drives me crazy. I'm a planner. I'm kind of type A in some ways. I like to know what's going on at all times and plan it out. So I guess just always making sure I'm on my toes is definitely the hardest part, the most important part in being ready whenever we do get that call to play, right? But I guess also just I moved away from home to a new city in the middle of a pandemic. So that was pretty crazy for me. And lucky enough, I was with my roommate there, and she's in the same boat, and we're both playing together on the Six, Amy Carlu. So it all worked out, and we got through it together and figured it out and navigated our way. And It seemed to work out just fine for us. So like, no complaints.
Well, that's good news then. Yeah, I feel you on that with the social aspect of getting out and seeing your friends and playing with your friends and working out with your friends and stuff. It's definitely been tough. And I play a lot of like adult league sports in the summer, and like just missing out on that like was hard. So like obviously being a professional athlete, like it's like your day job, right? So definitely difficult. So studies have shown, Lindsay, that depression, anxiety, and stress have increased over the course of the pandemic due to people living more isolated and feeling more alone. As an athlete, how has COVID impacted your day-to-day life and mental well-being, if at all?
Yeah, 100%. That's definitely the reality of it. This past year, it's a lot of isolation, and so like, I work from home, I work remotely, and work out alone. Like those are two things that I would normally, or I'd be going to the classroom, so it's all at home. And so it's just my roommate and I last year, and we were just going nuts. Like we wanted to see other faces, see other people, but we couldn't really. And then finally we were able to get on the ice, and that was like my escape. It was like twice a week that I got to communicate with people. And I'm a pretty social person, so and it's just healthy for any human being to socialize and be around people. So that was definitely hockey saved me last year in a sense. I got to go and experience a new city. I got to meet new people in the middle of it all, and we took all the safety precautions as we could, and to be able to practice in Toronto. And we didn't even get to sit in the locker room for the whole time, so it's pretty crazy. But as a team, the social impact there is we went into that bubble, and we had never even sat in a locker room all together. We had never been in a room together. We had only, you could count on one hand how many times we had practiced as a team together. So, I mean, that definitely impacted us as a team. And then, didn't really know all my teammates all that well, because we were split up into 2 sessions. So I only got to know half the team because I was on the ice with them and missed the other half. So it definitely impacted us. But I like to say it's kind of my saving grace is playing hockey last year. And that's my escape. And luckily it was the one chance I got to be social too during these times.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Staying social is really important. I'm the type of person that needs to talk all the time, so I can kind of relate with that as well. Since you do have another role outside of hockey, how has COVID impacted your job as an associate producer at Critical Mass compared to your role with the Six?
Yeah, so it's all been on remote. So I don't even know what it's like to go into the office, and hopefully that'll change in the fall. I think it's we're making plans to maybe shift back into the office slowly but surely, or at least part-time. So I don't really know what it's like other than just seeing faces on a screen, and I haven't even met a lot of my coworkers in person, and just talk to them on Zoom. So we try to put on our cameras as much as possible during meetings to get a better sense of how everyone's feeling, or small talk. And so definitely missing out on it. I'm going to go back to it, the social aspect. We hop on these calls, and everyone just hits mute, and we don't really talk. But if you're in the office, you're going to go into the boardroom, and you're going to small talk with someone until the meeting gets started, get to know them, what they did on the weekend. So you kind of miss out on that aspect a lot with work wise. And then that kind of messes with morale. And, the same can be translated into sports. Like I said, like we didn't get to hang out in the locker room, which is like one of the best parts, like hang out with your teammates, your friends in the locker room and just joking around. And, we didn't get that aspect. So I didn't really get to know people as well. And then that translated onto the ice because, you don't know how that person is or how you can communicate with that person on the bench and stuff. So a lot of learning on the fly as you go there as well. But yeah, I mean, we're all making do and doing the best we can during these times, and that's all you can do really is make the most of it. It's not ideal, but it is what it is in these times, and you just gotta kind of count your blessings.
Yeah, I think Geetika and I can relate to that pretty good with our job here at Cosmos, being in different areas and different places, and they talk a lot about like when they were in the office and how like such a team environment and morale was really high. And it's definitely an adjustment that we all have to make. And like, by the way, it's super impressive how you can be a professional athlete and still have that extra drive to like pursue your goals outside of hockey. It's awesome. Diving back into hockey here, have you been able to practice during COVID? And do you think COVID will have altered the way you play or practice in the future?
Yeah, so it's been tough these days. I'm still, training in my basement and haven't been able to get on the ice. I think rinks are just starting to open up here in Ontario. So hopefully in the next few weeks I'll get back on the ice and get back to it in that sense. But it definitely had an impact. I mean, just watching the NHL, how it impacted like people in the stands, how we had to have a bubble last year and no fans were allowed. It's definitely had an impact, but I think it also, from a women's hockey standpoint, I think COVID actually really helped us in a way. We got to reach out to other markets through Twitch, where that's where we streamed our games in the NWHL. And so we were, I remember my parents were telling me like fans from like I think it was overseas in Europe and like I've never watched a hockey game before. This is awesome. So, just getting to reach whole other markets and other demographics and bring them over to our games and gaining new fans and just reaching as many eyeballs as we can is like the most important thing I think we can do as a sport and for female hockey and women's hockey. So it's definitely changed it. It's changed the game for sure. On the ice, I don't think it's changed too much. I think the game remains the same, but as from a fan perspective or viewership, I think it's definitely changed, and it'll be interesting to see how it works out next year, and hopefully we'll be able to allow fans back into the building.
Yeah, for sure. With restrictions opening up, it's very exciting. Everyone's super excited. It looks like many sports teams are kind of getting back to what seems like the new normal, but hopefully you can still integrate the Twitch and reach a new market because that's always fun. Being an athlete can definitely take a toll on a person's mental health, just like COVID did. But was it a little nice for you to take a break and just relax from your usual activities?
Yeah, for sure. It was last year, especially like in April and May, I was trying to figure out, I had no idea what it was going to look like for me playing hockey. And so it was nice to just take a break. And every summer I try to take a good long break and get off my skates. In university, we're on the ice six days a week, and it's pretty grueling. And, your body needs a break. Your mind needs a break. So I always try to stay away, get off the ice and, try other things, do some cross training, do some things I enjoy doing. And that goes for my training because it can get old just, hitting the track and, hitting the weights, same thing every day. And that can be mentally grueling as well. You lose motivation. So I try to do cross training, a little bit of cross training. So like I like to ride my bike, go on my rollerblades, and I think that's really good for the mind too. It's like soothing. That's something that I really enjoy, and swimming. And so it's definitely very important to take that time and to, lay out a little bit, let the mind take a break from sports and just relax a little bit. But it's definitely important.
That's awesome that you have all those different avenues that you like to venture out to train and do that, because it's definitely good to have that variety. I feel like sometimes a break can be nice from sports, but it's like a huge part of somebody's identity, right? And obviously it can affect different people in different ways. So on that note, did you notice any differences between your teammates? Did things start to change as restrictions began to ease up?
Yeah, I think everyone was just really anxious to, go back to normal. I haven't been around my teammates since March, since we were finished at our season, but I know we were kind of in the heart of it. I know Ontario was going to lockdown right when we were heading to Lake Placid, and it was so restrictions were never really eased when we were playing or when we were together. So, but I know everyone was pretty anxious for them to ease up and, so we could get together, we could do team bonding stuff, and then just enjoy it, not have to worry about getting a COVID test before entering the arena or something like that. it's changed the way we had to deal with things, and we were willing to pay that price, obviously, because we want to play hockey and we love it, and we want everyone to be safe. But yeah, definitely, it'll be interesting to see all the girls again, when we go back and get back to it. So I'm sure it'll be a different way, because as restrictions start to ease up now.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. COVID definitely had a huge impact on the lives of people everywhere throughout the world. Ontario did have a harder time than other provinces in Canada. And it's nice to know that despite going through your own struggles, you and your teammates were kind of able to bond and just become teammates off of the ice as well. Just moving on, with technology just being a huge part of our lives nowadays, we tend to rely on our devices a lot. So more isolation means more screen time. What are your thoughts on social media and the effects it can have on an individual's mental health? And how has social media impacted your mental health as an athlete, if at all?
Yeah, I think social media can be such a good tool. Like, it brings us all together. Like I'm saying, like, we were all separated as a team. We had our group chat, Snapchat group chat, like, kind of brought us together, right? But then it can also be such a bad tool. It can hurt. There's some people out there that, are a little hurtful and online, and it's they don't say the right things and they go hard on people. So it's a double-edged sword in that sense. And then also, like, there's pressures, and people put out, I'm constantly on. I love Twitter, it's my favorite app, but some days I'm like, I hate this app. Like, there's just so much drama, unnecessary things, that people are just ruthless. And I think we're using it for the wrong reasons at times. And so that can definitely take a toll on people's mental health, for sure. And I know, even, like, I go back to when we were in the bubble and I was playing, and I scored the first ever franchise goal for the Toronto Six, and then my phone was blowing up. And my phone, I thought it was going to blow up. Like, literally, I never had that many notifications, and, like, everyone congratulating me. And it was amazing to see, and all these people reaching out, but it was overwhelming. And that's just, like, the power of social media, that it's reaching all these people, and people are seeing my goal and reaching out to me. And so it's amazing. And, like, I'm so incredibly thankful, but it was overwhelming, something I'm not used to. And so I can only imagine other professional athletes who have massive followings and fans and all that, and that's their every day, and that could be a lot for people. So I understand why people take breaks from social media, and I think it's definitely important to shut it off. Like, on game days, I like to shut it off at a certain point and just focus on the game, get away from the social media. I don't let it talk. But yeah, it's definitely a double-edged sword. It can be great, but also so bad.
Yeah, you definitely have to find that, like, happy medium, like you were saying. I know for me, like, my screen time went through the roof, like, once quarantine started, and I definitely had some effect on me, where, like, I had to make a change in my daily routine personally. And I feel like with athletes and everyone, like, everyone had to make a lot of adjustments to what COVID-19 brought us. So with that being said, are there any major changes or differences related to mental health that you went through during COVID that will impact yourself as an athlete? And was there ever a time during lockdowns and throughout COVID that you thought about talking to someone professionally?
Yeah, personally, I'm always used to, like, go go go, and there's also always, like, one thing next, and I thrive off of that. I love being busy. It's exhausting, but it's just, I realized once everything kind of slowed down. I know we talked about this earlier, just taking that break, and it's definitely good for me. But I kind of just felt stagnant, and I didn't feel like I was doing anything, even though I'm probably doing more than the best thing I could do for myself, and just relaxing, taking a break, and not, going go 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 all the time. And but that definitely had an impact on my mental health. I just felt like I wasn't achieving anything, just sitting, not out there doing things, even though I'm getting ready for the season. It's just, so that was definitely the biggest thing, is just adjusting to not having the go 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 constantly. And I don't know a better way to put it into words. That's the best way to say it in my head. But and that just kind of, like, that definitely, like, brought me down in a way. And I wouldn't say I ever felt like I needed to talk to anyone professionally about that, but definitely I just needed to recognize it, that that's, that's life. And like when I got out of when I'm in university, I'm school Monday to usually Tuesday, and then games Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday I rest or I do homework, right? So there was no chill time. It was always one thing, and you're always looking forward to something. And then when COVID hit, there wasn't a whole lot to look forward to. And just realizing that that's normal. There's not always going to be some big thing or something that to look forward to, and that just chilling out and not having anything on the go is actually like something I need to appreciate more. And just recognize it's good for me. It's not bad. It's not a bad thing to not have anything on my plate. So yeah, I think just really realizing and just thinking about that and digesting that personally really helped me. And eventually I embraced that and became comfortable with that stillness, which made me very uncomfortable before. But another thing, like going back to the bubble, we had a sports psychologist on our team who helped us out. She was on our staff, and if we ever needed to talk to anyone, we could just about anything, she was at the ready for us. And so I actually did reach out one time to go over, like, there's a lot going on in that bubble, so just to talk through it with someone. I felt overwhelmed, and she gave me some tactics and some tricks to bring with me, and a lot of it is just slow down, turn off the brain for a second and just relax. And that's something that I'm not good at. So she definitely really helped me out in that sense. And it was honestly just great to know. I only had to use her once, but to know that she was there is just comforting for sure as well.
I know that this wasn't something that's easy to talk about, so we really appreciate you being so open with us today. As a hockey fan myself, it's very refreshing to get a perspective of a professional hockey player. I feel like not many athletes would be open to discussing this topic in detail, so thank you. But talking more about my love for the sport, one thing I love about hockey is the atmosphere, the excitement at games, and just the sense of community. With COVID, fans weren't allowed in stadiums, so how has it been playing within a bubble without fans?
Yeah, when you're on the ice, you don't really realize too much. The biggest thing for me is that my parents come to every one of my games, and they weren't able to come. I knew they were watching online, but it's not quite the same. But it was nice to see. We had the cardboard cutouts in the stand, so that gave us a good feeling, knowing that there are fans watching us, and we know they're paying attention, and that if they could be there, they'd be there. So it's definitely really nice to know that. But when the puck hits the ice, it's all business, right? So it wasn't too bad in that front. And just knowing that they're all watching back home is definitely important, and it was very nice to know. But yeah, we made it happen, and I can't wait to get fans back in there. And we haven't had any in Toronto. Their fans have never been allowed in the arena, so it should be pretty cool when they can get fans in there, and see how that all turns out, and what cool and exciting things you can do, and get closer to the community in that sense as well.
Oh, that's awesome. I know for me, I played university baseball like back when pre-COVID. So I couldn't imagine a game without fans in the stands, like watching and cheering and like bringing everyone together and the atmosphere. And it just creates an amazing environment, which you know all about, obviously. So hopefully more and more fans will be allowed back soon. So now we're just somewhat closing out the podcast here. Do you have any advice for other athletes in regards to coping with mental health and their well-being with COVID, or just in general?
Yeah, I think, I think we all go through it, and just recognizing, how you're feeling, and checking in on yourself is extremely important. It's busy lifestyle, and you have high demands, lots of pressures, and you always having that pressure to show up and perform at your best, even if it's just a practice. It gets tiring, and it's hard on you. So just knowing, you're not alone is for one huge, and then just to always make sure you're taking care of yourself, and doing the little things, if that's just making sure you're getting better sleep, eating right, and just doing what you love, and things that help you in that sense, and that relax the brain a little bit. I think that definitely goes a long way. But I think the biggest advice I have is to just make sure you're always checking in on yourself, and you got to take care of your mind too. You're always taking care of your body. You got to take up care of your brain as well.
That was definitely some great advice. I'll keep it in mind for the future. As we are approaching the end of our podcast, do you have any final comments or advice for our listeners and just any other athletes? Also, where could people find you? Do you have any social media and where they can reach out?
Yeah, I think this is a super important conversation. So I appreciate you guys having it with me. It's something that's not talked about enough, and so and it's definitely a difficult one. So it's but the most important. So I appreciate you guys asking maybe the hard questions at times, but it's super important, and we're all in this together. But yeah, you can find me on social media. I'm on Instagram, Lindsay East with 2 T's, and on Twitter, Lindsay Eastwood with the O's are zeros. But yeah, thanks guys. It's been great.
That's awesome. Thank you again, Lindsay, for joining us today to discuss such an important topic in mental health. That concludes our podcast. To our audience, feel free to follow Cosmos across all social media platforms to stay tuned for the next Rookies podcast. At Cosmos Sports is where you can find us. On behalf of Geetika and I, we thank you for joining us and listening in, and we will see you next time on the Rookies podcast.